Hey, good morning, everybody. John here, and we finally made it. So we are heading into week 8. Um, we've just got the two final projects. The one that I'll be grading this week, and then the last one, which you'll be working on this week. So um, no discussion question this week, of course. I just wanted to take a few minutes now just to, I think, largely, if you were to get anything out of this course, I mean, I just wanted to kind of point those things out, things that I think are probably the biggest takeaways from the the things that we've discussed over the last several weeks. So I appreciate everybody's hard work. I appreciate everyone's engagement. This has definitely been a very engaged class, and I appreciate that. I think it adds a lot of value to the class, and I think it just takes everyone to be able to do that. So thank you very much. I hope you got something out of this class. I hope, of course, we're not done yet. We got another week, but I hope you. Of course, my biggest goal with every one of these classes is to make sure that that you get some value out of it. So hopefully. Hopefully, you all get the sense that you did get some value out of this class. So, just a few things, and I'm going to cover a couple things related to the final project. So, first, in terms of what I feel like are the biggest takeaways from this class, I got a few notes here, but we just covered this recently as we started going over the ethics portion of the class, but there is definitely a distinction between ethical issues and legal issues. And I mentioned this to a few of you in the feedback to some of your papers. Just remember that someone can act completely ethically, act within the rules of professional conduct by which they're bound. Act within any principle that we're familiar with in terms of ethical conduct. They could totally be acting within those rules or within those principles and still potentially be on the hook for some legal liability. Remember the ethics or the elements of a negligence claim, right? So you've got duty, you've got established duty, a breach from that duty. Was there a deviation from the standard of care? Was there causation, both proximate and direct? And were there damages? So you can certainly formulate some sort of analysis in which somebody acted ethically, but a mistake was made. So some act occurred not intentionally, because intentionally obviously would not be negligence, but a mistake that is somehow a deviation from the standard of care, and someone incurs some sort of legal liability. So there are two different issues. Remember the and I just covered this, but the malpractice, the legal liability, and those elements, right? So why do we even have the elements? Because, as we've noted several times in the class, that even the absence of one element means that there is no negligence. So you have to show all four of them in order to establish negligence. If there's no duty, then there's no negligence, right? And remember, how to show duty is that formation of the physician-patient relationship. If there's no deviation from the standard of care, there's no breach of that duty, then there's no negligence. If there's no causation, so if that act of deviating from the standard of care didn't actually cause the injury, then there's no negligence, no matter what that deviation was. And if there's no damages, there's no negligence, because there's nothing, there's no liability, there's nothing to pay for. So you gotta be able to establish all four of those elements. And remember that concept of legal analysis. It's not just related to this class, but it's really a way to think about any sort of concept in and out of healthcare critically. So what is the issue? What is the rule? Remember the HIPAA discussion question we had, which, the main point of that discussion question was being able to sort of tease out that rule. What is the rule? What is a breach? Well, a breach is not just using and disclosing PHI the way we think it shouldn't be. A breach is actually is a legal definition that consists of multiple factors to consider, consists of a variety of exceptions, and that's important. I mean, you got to state that rule. What is the rule? You got to understand what the rules are of the game in order to conduct some sort of analysis. So, the rule. And then apply those facts. You got to know what facts you're looking at in order and applying to that rule to understand what the conclusion might be. So apply specific facts, come out with your conclusion. Remember, to me, in really in any sort of legal liability context, the conclusion is a byproduct of a reasonable analysis. So I'm not worried about the conclusion so much, because the conclusion will depend on a variety of things, including, are you advocating for your client, or is this some sort of an objective analysis and you're looking at all sides of it? So I don't know. I mean, that just depends. What doesn't depend on anything is the rule and the facts. So once you apply those, come out with your conclusion. We talked about some other stuff. There's just so much to cover in 8 weeks. We talked about the business and economics of healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid, all the different ways in which providers are compensated for providing healthcare, private group health plans, the whole concept of managed care. We've talked a little bit about healthcare governed by federal and state laws and agencies, a little bit about the anti-kickback statute, Stark law. We talked a little bit more about HIPAA, the different agencies that regulate healthcare, CMS, Department of Health and Human Services, the FDA with clinical studies and trials, and so many more. But and then the state law issues like corporate practice of medicine, patient abandonment, privacy, medical records laws, which are, besides HIPAA, largely governed by state law, state licensure laws. So many different things to consider in the healthcare world. The biggest takeaway is going back to the whole concept of legal analysis. So if I were to say what's one thing to take away and hopefully you got the most value of going forward, is the concept of thinking about these issues critically before jumping to conclusions, making sure you understand what the rule is and what the facts are. So once you have those two things in place, you can perform your analysis. So that's it. I appreciate it. Just a couple of things as we finish out this class. I just want to emphasize again, I haven't graded any of the weeks of the final projects that were due yesterday. However, I just want to emphasize, as you're working on the last week's, the final week's final project, is to make sure that you're answering the requirements of each section in the rubric. In prior classes, some students have made the mistake, if they got an A or A minus or B or whatever on their rough draft, just resubmitting that. And then when it doesn't come back the way they think, they have a hard time understanding why, since they got an A on that rough draft. And the answer is, and I mentioned this last time, but the answer is the rubric requirements are slightly different in the final draft. They're more detailed. And the other thing is just I'm a human that's grading papers, a lot of papers. So there may be some things that I miss or don't miss in one or the other. Whether the rough draft or the final draft, and really I just go down, as you've noticed by now, go down the rubric requirements and make sure that those are met and that it's written clearly. So if you have any questions as we close this out, please feel free to reach out to me. Any sort of arrangements related to late assignments, please let me know so we can get those finalized. Remember, I only have about a 2-day turnaround time on grading the final papers next week. So it's imperative that those are turned in a timely manner. If other arrangements need to be made, just please reach out to me. So have a great and productive week, and this will be the last video of the class. So hopefully these have provided some sort of value as well. Anyways, have a great one. Thanks. Bye.